Right, so get this. You guys really want to deep dive into D.B. Cooper.
Yeah.
Like, this is one of the most requested topics that we've had. So we're going to unpack this whole thing.
Yeah, this one's a doozy.
Oh, yeah. It's a wild one. We've got excerpts from Wikipedia and a handful of these super intriguing articles, like just covering this whole thing, the original hijacking, investigations, everything.
The whole 9 yards.
The whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
So your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to sift through all this with us.
Yeah.
Follow the twists and turns. Maybe even form your own opinion about what really happened.
Yeah, what really happened.
Yeah.
Because this is a mystery for the ages, for sure.
It is.
Over 50 years later,
Right.
people are still trying to figure out what happened to D.B. Cooper.
I know.
There's just something about it.
Right.
A daring escape, a whole lot of unanswered questions, a bunch of money.
Yeah,
It just captures the imagination.
it really does.
It really does.
Okay, so imagine this. It's November 24th, 1971. Seemingly ordinary guy, calls himself Dan Cooper, boards Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305. Once that plane's in the air, things take a turn.
Oh, yeah.
A wild turn.
They take a turn right out of a movie.
Out of a movie, right?
Yeah. He slips a note to a flight attendant. He's got a bomb.
A bomb, not a gun.
Right, not a gun. He's demanding $200,000 and 4 parachutes.
See, that's what I don't get. Most hijackers, they brandish a gun, right?
Right.
But a bomb.
A bomb. That just changes the whole game.
That changes everything. That's a whole other level.
It is.
It's almost like he knew exactly what he was doing.
Right.
And it wasn't just some, random act of desperation. He even requested 2 sets of parachutes.
Yeah.
Like, why 2? You think he planned on taking a hostage with him?
It's certainly possible. I mean, by asking for multiple sets, he really put the pressure on authorities to give him functioning equipment.
Right.
Because, they wouldn't risk a hostage's life with a dud parachute.
Absolutely not.
So that speaks to a level of strategic thinking that goes beyond your average criminal.
Absolutely. And there's more. Cooper was dropping these little hints
Yeah.
about things that the average person just wouldn't know, like specific refueling procedures, even the location of McCord Air Force Base near the Seattle-Tacoma Airport.
Yeah, those details are incredibly telling.
Yeah.
I mean, they suggest some level of familiarity with aviation and maybe even military experience.
Yeah, for sure.
This wasn't just some random guy who decided, hey, I'm going to hijack a plane.
Right.
Like on a whim.
Yeah.
No, this was
thought out.
This was planned, thought out.
Okay, so the plane lands in Seattle. He gets the money, the parachutes. Then he orders the pilots to fly toward Mexico City. But then somewhere over the Pacific Northwest, he jumps out of the plane
In the night.
into the night
Into the darkness.
and disappears.
Gone. Vanished into thin air.
It's mind-boggling.
It's almost like he planned the perfect crime.
I know, right?
And that's part of what makes this case so enduring.
Yeah.
Did he survive the jump?
Right.
Where did he land? What happened to the money?
Right.
I mean, these are questions that have haunted investigators
Right.
for decades.
Yeah. Let's go back to Cooper's plan for a sec.
Yeah.
Everything about it seems so meticulously crafted.
Right.
Like, he didn't just choose any plane. He went for a Boeing 727, which had this really unique feature, that aft air stair that could be lowered during flight.
During flight.
Yeah.
Like, most people wouldn't even know about that.
Exactly.
Right.
That's not common knowledge.
That's
very specific.
Right.
That's like,
He exploited a vulnerability that at the time wasn't even considered a security risk.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, he knew exactly what type of plane he needed.
for his escape.
For his escape, yeah.
That level of planning is, pretty chilling, if you ask me.
It is.
So the hijacking happens. Obviously, the FBI launches this massive investigation. We're talking searches, ransom serial number tracking,
Yeah.
a whole 9 yards.
They threw everything they had at this case.
I bet they did.
I mean, imagine the pressure.
Oh, my gosh.
A hijacking, a ransom, and then a suspect that seemingly vanished into thin air.
Right.
They interviewed hundreds of people,
Yeah.
chased countless leads, scoured the potential landing area. But Cooper had, for all intents and purposes, disappeared,
Poof.
gone.
Gone. But then, almost a decade later, things take another turn, an unexpected turn.
Buckle up.
Yeah. 1980. A young boy finds a portion of the ransom money along the Columbia River.
What are the chances?
I know, right?
I mean, that discovery was huge, but instead of providing answers, it just muddied the waters further.
Right, because now it's like,
Yeah.
How did the money end up there after all these years?
Yeah.
Was it planted? Why only a portion of the ransom?
Right.
This is where the case starts to get really interesting.
It really does.
Yeah. One of the initial theories was that the money bundles just kind of floated down the Columbia River from one of its tributaries.
Yeah, the free-floating hypothesis.
But there's some things that don't quite add up with that, right?
Exactly. Think about it, right? Some of the bills were missing from the packets, and the rubber bands were still intact. After all that time in the water,
Yeah.
that doesn't really fit with that whole free-floating theory.
Doesn't at all.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at. We're trying to figure out, how did the money get there?
Right.
And then just when you think you've got a handle on things, there's another twist.
Oh, there's always another twist with D.B. Cooper.
I don't know. In 2020, they analyzed diatoms, these tiny algae found in water, on the recovered bills. What they find is pretty wild.
Yeah, pretty wild.
Yeah.
This analysis shows that the money probably didn't even enter the water until months after the hijacking.
Months.
Months.
It's like it throws a major wrench into that whole
I
timeline.
know, right?
It raises even more questions about how that money got there.
It's like we're dealing with a ghost.
Yeah.
The money is a mystery, and so is the man himself. The FBI has investigated over 1,000 suspects in this case. You're telling me they couldn't pin it on anyone? Nope. Despite all their efforts, D.B. Cooper's true identity remains a complete enigma.
An enigma.
Yeah, and that's what keeps people coming back to this case.
Right.
Everyone loves a good mystery, right?
Right.
And this one has it all. Daring escape, missing fortune, a suspect who seems to have vanished from the face of the earth.
All right. So let's dive into some of the suspects. I know you've got some favorites.
I do. Oh, I definitely do. One of the most intriguing is Ted Braden.
Dead Braid.
Ex-Special Forces commando, master skydiver, even did some time for a robbery.
Okay, so he definitely had the skills to pull this off. Plus the whole Special Forces background. I mean, that's got to make him a prime suspect, right?
Oh, yeah.
They're trained for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Braden would have access to all sorts of classified information.
Yeah.
About aircraft, parachuting techniques, even potentially some unconventional warfare tactics.
Right.
But there's a catch. His family swore he was home the night of the hijacking.
So another dead end.
Well,
I mean, families can be tricky, right?
yeah, they can.
Like maybe they were covering for him. Or maybe they genuinely believed he was home. It's hard to say for sure.
Family alibis can be tough to crack.
Yeah.
But then we have Richard McCoy,
Richard McCoy.
another skilled skydiver, who pulled off a hijacking just a few months after Cooper.
Wait, are you serious?
Oh, yeah.
A copycat hijacker? That's insane.
It is, yeah.
Did he get away with it?
Well, he was eventually caught and convicted. But initially, his family provided an alibi for him.
Just like Braden's family.
Just like Braden's family.
Wow.
However, years later, new information came to light, suggesting they might have been lying.
Whoa. Okay, so maybe there's more to McCoy's story than we initially thought.
Potentially.
Could he have been inspired by Cooper's success? Or maybe they were working together. This is getting good.
It's definitely a possibility worth considering.
Yeah.
The similarities between their hijackings are just too striking to ignore.
Right.
And then there's Barbara Dayton.
Barbara Dayton.
She claimed to actually be D.B. Cooper.
Wait, a woman.
A woman.
And seeking revenge.
Seeking revenge on the airline industry for denying her dreams of becoming a pilot.
Wow, no, that's a motive I haven't heard before.
It's certainly a unique twist. While she later recanted her confession, it raises some interesting questions about what might have driven Cooper to do what he did.
Yeah.
Was it purely about the money? Or was there a personal vendetta at play?
Okay, so we've got Braden, McCoy, Dayton, all with their own intriguing connections to the case. But there are even more suspects, right? You mentioned something about a guy with titanium antimony alloy particles on his tie.
Yes. Vincent C. Peterson.
Vincent C. Peterson.
Now, this is where forensic science comes in.
Good.
Those particles, which are pretty rare, were found on a tie that Cooper left behind on the plane.
Oh, interesting.
They could indicate Peterson's occupation or access to certain materials.
So they're trying to connect the dots between those particles and a specific job or industry. Like, if he worked with those materials, it could link him to the hijacking.
Exactly.
Pretty clever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a puzzle. You're trying to find the missing pieces.
Right.
And then there's Sheridan Peterson.
A Boeing employee who had experience as a smoke jumper.
A smoke jumper.
Which basically means he knew how to parachute into wildfires.
Okay, so he worked for Boeing, knew how to parachute, and potentially had access to information about the 727. Sounds like another solid lead.
Right. And some speculate that maybe he had a grudge against Boeing.
Oh,
But for some reason, which could have been his motive.
Oh, okay.
It's all speculation, of course. But it's fascinating to consider the possibilities.
I know, right? We can't forget Robert Rackstraw either.
Oh, Robert Rackstraw.
His name was all over the news a few years back, thanks to that History Channel documentary.
Oh, yeah.
What was their angle?
Well, the documentary claimed that Rackstraw was Cooper, based on a bunch of circumstantial evidence, and these cryptic messages he supposedly sent.
Oh, wow.
Rackstraw denied it, of course, but it brought the case back into the spotlight.
Right, right.
You know, one thing that's always baffled me is if Cooper survived, why haven't we heard from him? You'd think after all this time, someone would come forward.
I know, right?
Right.
Maybe he's living off the grid, enjoying his loot in some tropical paradise. Or maybe he didn't survive the jump after all.
That's the other side of the coin, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're so focused on the possibility of him surviving that we sometimes forget about the very real dangers involved in jumping out of a plane in the dead of night into a remote wilderness area.
Yeah, not exactly ideal conditions for a parachute jump.
No, not at all.
Speaking of surviving the jump, did you mention something about copycat hijacking?
Oh, yeah. There were actually several hijackings after Cooper's, all seemingly inspired by his daring escape.
Oh, wow.
And here's the kicker. All of those copycats survived their jumps.
Wait, seriously? They all lived?
They all lived.
But they wouldn't have had Cooper's experience or planning. How did the FBI react to that?
Well, it forced them to rethink their whole approach to the case. If these less experienced guys could survive, then maybe, just maybe, Cooper did too.
That's got to be frustrating for investigators. They're chasing a ghost. And every time they think they're getting close, something else pops up that throws them off course.
Absolutely.
It's like one step forward, two steps back.
It is, it is.
But you know what's interesting?
Yeah.
Even though Cooper got away, at least for now, he had a huge impact on the way we fly today.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, airport security is a whole different ballgame now compared to back then.
Oh, yeah. Before Cooper, you could basically just walk onto a plane with barely any checks.
Right.
His hijacking exposed major vulnerabilities in the system.
No more waltzing onto a plane
Yeah.
with a bomb in your briefcase.
Nope.
Cooper changed everything.
He did.
I bet the airlines weren't too happy about that.
They weren't thrilled. But it was a wake-up call for the entire industry.
Or-
Suddenly, things we take for granted today, like metal detectors and baggage checks,
Yeah.
became standard procedure.
So I guess we can thank Cooper for that, even if he was a criminal mastermind.
Right.
So what else changed because of him?
Well, they invented the Cooper vane,
The Cooper vane.
which is a device that prevents the aft air stair from being lowered during flight.
Oh, interesting.
No more hijacking via the back door.
Clever. And I bet that put an end to copycat hijackers using that same method.
It did. And they also started installing peepholes in cockpit doors.
Peepholes.
Nah.
So pilots could see what was happening in the cabin without having to open the door.
Exactly.
Smart move. I mean, it's incredible how this one event led to so many changes in aviation security.
It really is.
I mean, talk about a ripple effect.
Cooper's legacy goes far beyond the money or the mystery of his identity.
Right.
He forced the industry to take security seriously, and that has undoubtedly saved countless lives.
I think you're right. Okay, so we've unpacked the hijacking, the investigation. We've even explored some of the most intriguing suspects. What's the verdict? Did D.B. Cooper pull off the perfect crime and live to tell the tale? Or did he meet a chilling fate in the wilderness?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
I know, it's the question that's been on everyone's mind for over 50 years. Did he survive or not? What do you think?
Honestly, it's impossible to say for sure.
Right.
There's compelling evidence on both sides. On the one hand, he had a plan, he was meticulous, and those copycats proved it was possible to survive that kind of jump.
But on the other hand, he jumped into a remote wilderness area in the dark with no support. And we haven't found any concrete evidence of him after that.
Exactly. It's that lack of a definitive answer that fuels the mystery.
Right.
And it's why people keep coming up with new theories, even today.
Speaking of theories, we can't wrap up this deep dive without at least touching on some of the wilder ones out there. Some people believe Cooper was part of a secret organization, maybe even had help from the government.
Oh yeah, the conspiracy theories are a whole rabbit hole in themselves.
Yeah, I bet.
There are theories connecting him to the mob, theories about hidden messages in the ransom notes, even theories that he faked his own death and is living a life of luxury somewhere.
See, that's what I love about this case. It's a real-life puzzle that everyone can try to solve. And even if we never find out the truth, it's fun to speculate and explore the possibilities.
Absolutely, it's the ultimate unsolved mystery.
Right.
And even if Cooper himself is gone, his story continues to capture our imaginations.
He's become a bit of a legend, hasn't he?
He has.
A symbol of daring, of outsmarting the system, of disappearing without a trace.
It's true. There's a certain romanticism to the whole thing.
I think so, yeah.
He pulled off this incredible heist, vanished into thin air, and left everyone wondering. It's the kind of story that inspires books, movies, documentaries, even a whole community of amateur sleuths dedicated to solving the case.
That's amazing, and I think that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating. It's not just about the facts of the case. It's about the impact it's had on our culture, our imagination, and even our security protocols. D.B. Cooper changed the way we fly, sparked countless theories and debates, and left behind a legacy that continues to intrigue us.
Yeah, it's a story that just won't quit.
It won't.
And who knows, maybe someday someone will uncover that one piece of evidence. That finally solves the mystery. Until then, the legend of D.B. Cooper lives on.
Well, I think we've covered just about everything on this one. It's been a wild ride, full of twists and turns. What stood out to you the most? Was it the meticulous planning, the mysterious ransom money, or maybe one of those intriguing suspects?
You know, for me, it's the diatom analysis that really gets me thinking.
Yeah.
It throws everything we thought we knew into question. And it reminds us that even in a case as old as this one, new evidence can emerge and completely change our understanding of what happened.
And that's what makes this case so captivating. It's a story that keeps evolving, a mystery that refuses to be solved. So what do you think? Did D.B. Cooper survive the jump and vanish with the money? Or did he meet a different fate that November night?
Only D.B. Cooper knows for sure. But that's the beauty of it, isn't it? The mystery endures, and maybe that's how it should be.
I think you're right. Sometimes the most compelling stories are the ones that leave us with more questions than answers. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the mystery of D.B. Cooper.